Okay, in this video we're going to look at we're going to look at something known as the short run shutdown decision. Okay, so we're going to basically look at what point will a firm no longer be willing to operate in the short run. Now this doesn't mean they're going to exit the business altogether, but it means they're going to shut down. And firms shut down all the time. Shutdown could be as simple as like they're not going to be open on this day of the week. Okay, so on a certain day of the week they can't make enough money, so it's not worth their while to do that. Or it could be that they're going to temporarily not produce, but then they might start producing again in the future. Right. So this is something called a short run shutdown decision. To do this, it helps to understand something about we're going to do this graphically. So let's think about our profit. Remember, that's profit. This thing, it looks like pi means profit. Our profit is equal to our revenue minus our costs, total revenue minus total cost, if you want to say it that way. And so then our average profit, that means per unit, right? A profit per unit is just going to be total revenue divided by quantity minus the total cost divided by quantity. And so that's going to be our average revenue minus our average cost. And then remember finally that our price is our average revenue. So that's just our price minus our average cost. Okay. So when we're looking at an individual unit, we can see what's happening with the profit. We can see when we compare these two, right? So if our profit is told to us by this P minus average cost. And then if we wanted to get to our total profit, this tells us how much profit we're getting per unit, right? So this part is our profit per, okay. Okay, so we're going to use that knowledge to do something. Okay, so we are going to draw, so we're going to try to use a graph of our average and our marginal to then tell us something about this particular market and where they want to produce and where they're not willing to produce. So let's suppose this is our average variable cost, and then this is our average total cost. That's our average total cost. And then this is our marginal cost. And remember, this marginal cost goes through the minimum points, even if it doesn't look like it because I didn't draw it perfectly, of those two curves. So these both should be the minimum point of those curves. And right, it's because when the marginal cost is above the minimum, then it pulls up. When it's above the curve, it ends up pulling up the costs. And when it's below the curve, it's pulling it down. And then it's this point in the minimum where it crosses where they're exactly equal. Okay, so what we want to look at here is at what prices is the firm willing to produce in the short run, and where will they no longer want to produce. So that's what we're going to look at here. Okay, so let's first start here. Let's suppose we have a price way up here. Oops. So the price is way up here. So this is their price. And the question is, will they produce? And if so, how much? And the answer is yes, they'll produce. They'll produce this much. So this is going to give us our max profit. And then where do we see it? Well, we can see it here. This height here shows us how much, this is our profit per unit, because this is the price compared to the average cost, right? So this red line, this is our profit per unit. And in this case, we're making a profit. Every unit we're selling, just to make up some numbers, we're selling this good for $10, and our average cost is $8. So every unit we make $2. And then to find our total profit, we just got to times by Q, which we'll be doing later on. So they're definitely willing to sell this part. So let's label this part. So if we go above our average cost here, that they're definitely willing to sell that part. Okay, because all those points above the average cost, they make a profit, and we get a positive profit. Okay. Okay, so that's there. We can let's erase this part, and we start. Okay. So now we say, well, what if our price was super low, like down to here? This is our price, and the question is, will we produce? So if our price is super low down here, so let's suppose our price is less than our average variable cost, then are we going to produce? And so the answer is no, you shut down. Okay, so if our price goes below our average variable cost, we're going to shut down. So the price is too low, we're going to shut down, and actually we're going to find out this right here is our shutdown point. So any point below there, we're not going to produce. And so the question is why? Why do we need to, and then we'll look at the in-between part in a second. Why do we need to shut down if we go below average variable cost? So let's use the example of a restaurant just to make this simple. And so let's suppose our restaurant has two kinds of costs. We have our fixed cost, which is the rent. We pay rent to rent a space, and we have a contract, so we can't change that in the short run. And then we have our variable cost. Our variable cost is like food, labor, and power. Okay, those are our variable costs. So when we go below this point, we're not covering our rent, but we're also not covering all our variable costs. So let's suppose we're selling pizzas, and in food, labor, energy, etc., it costs us, I don't know, $7 to make a pizza. That's probably a big overestimate, but let's suppose it costs us $7 to make a pizza. All right, and we're only getting $5 a pizza. So that means every time we're selling a pizza, it's as if we're giving the customer $2. We're just giving they give us $5 and we give them something that cost us $7. So the more pizzas we sell, the more money we lose. So we definitely never ever want to go below our average variable cost. So the more you sell, the more you lose. Okay, so that's definitely a no-go zone. So that's why this point here, the minimum of our average variable cost, is known as the shutdown point. So any price that goes below that point, we shut down, and that's why it's called the shutdown point. So this yellow minimum average variable cost is called the shutdown point. So now let's go to the final question here. What if we have a price that's in between? Let's suppose our price is like here. Okay, so we have a price which is, let's suppose our price is greater than average variable cost, but it's less than average total cost. Okay, so we're just looking at the short run right now. Okay, so what's the situation here? So that means we're covering our variable costs. So you're paying for your food costs, you're paying for your labor, plus part of our fixed costs. So we're covering our variable costs plus part of our fixed costs, right? So that's what that means. So we're getting variable costs and we're getting part of our fixed costs. So this means, well, if we sell at this point, so let's suppose we sell, you still look for P, which is our marginal revenue, and our average revenue in this case. Well, it's our average revenue, and in this case, it's also our marginal revenue. So we still look for this. This still gives us our best quantity. And so at this point, we are losing money because we're not covering our average total cost, but we're losing less than we would if we shut down, because we're at least covering part of our fixed costs, which we would have to still pay even if we shut down, because we've signed a contract. We're on the hook for that rent, right? Well, unless we have to go to bankruptcy court or something like that. So in this situation, you're losing money, but you lose less by staying in business for the short run. But we lose less by staying in the short run. Well, by selling in the short run. Okay, so back to our restaurant example. Our rent is $2,000 a month, and then our pizza, we said it costs us $7, and so we're selling them for $8. We're selling our pizzas for $8. Sorry, our pizzas in variable cost us $7. The variable cost of our pizzas cost us $7, right? Just the labor and the food costs, etc., not counting the rent. And so we're selling them for $8, right? So every time we sell a pizza, we get an extra $1. Every time we sell a pizza, we get an extra $1. So, but at the end of the month, we still got to pay rent, and we're not selling enough pizzas to, when we count all those extra dollars we get on each pizza, we're not selling enough to pay the rent at the end, right? So that's where we're at. That's this in-between part. So this in-between part, we are willing to sell in the short run. Okay, so we're willing to do this in the short run. We're willing to sell in the short run. So that's the idea. So if we're above average total cost, great. Of course we like it. We're making a profit. If we're between the average variable cost and average total cost, we're willing to do it in the short run. Okay, and if we go below average variable cost, we shut down immediately. And you can use this story. So the first one is like, when you consider everything, including our rent, we need to make $10 a pizza to break even, and you're getting 12. So great, you're wonderful, you're making money, right? You're happy with that situation. And then the next one is, well, yes, we need $10 to break even, but we need 7 to cover our labor and our food. Okay, so and then in that case, if you're getting 8, in the short run you stay in business, you pay your workers, you pay your food, and you get some of your rent money back, but not all, right? And then in the long run, you're going to quit this business. In the long run, you're going to decide not to keep going. But in the short run period, you're doing better by doing this. Rather than losing all of the rent, at least you can recoup some of it by doing this situation. So hopefully that makes sense. We'll do a little bit more related to this long run idea in a second.